Welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So Sweet Home is a South Korean Netflix series. It's based upon a webtoon, and the general story is there's this kid, his name is Cha Hyun-soo, and he moves into this new apartment complex. It's called the Green Home, and in it there's some weird things going on, and eventually we have monsters and other weird things going on in this complex, and that's kind of like the general story, as simple as that sounds. So let's go ahead and get into the things that I did really like about this series, starting off with the characters. There's so many interesting, weird, and fun characters in this. You know, besides Cha Hyun-soo, there is a gangster, there is a firefighter who is also a combatant of sorts, there is a musician, ballerina, a preacher slash samurai swordsman, and a wheelchair weapon specialist, and many, many other characters. And so there are a lot of really interesting characters that add to this story. And the great thing is, the characters themselves, you actually grow attached to each one of them, and each one of them kind of have their own backstory. And that's what I really appreciated about this series, because as you're watching these 10 episode series, you really care about these characters from the beginning to the end. And even some that don't play a big role, they do really serve to, overall just tell a better story because of the fact that the characters you just really get vested into. And the great thing is, it's not really about the central character. That's the thing. The central character, honestly, is probably the least interesting one, at least in season 1. And so it's a really good thing to have really good, strong characters that you actually like. So the second thing that I enjoyed about this is the overall world building. You have this world of normal humans, but then you have this other world of monsters and otherworldly creatures. And then you have an organization that might be controlling all of this. So it kind of reminds me of the Resident Evil series, specifically Resident Evil 2 and beyond, where it's just this big thing with the Umbrella Corporation and all these monsters. It's very similar to that. But at the same time, this whole world, there's still a lot of mystery, even though the general concept is something that's been done before. I just think the way in which it is told here, they give you just enough, but you could tell that there's going to be a lot bigger world out there than just this small apartment complex that we have. And then the final thing that I really enjoyed about this series is the action. Whenever the action comes, it's very brutal, it's gory, and they try to mix it up, and going back to the characters that we have, depending upon the character that you're interacting with, the way in which they fight and battle these monsters, it's different. And I think that really helps a lot to have different types of actions per the characters that you have, instead of just being a few characters with the same type of action over and over.
For fast website hosting and top-notch service and features, check out Siteground, the preferred service news at GeekOutdoors.com. For more information, check out the affiliate link in the description area below.
Now, getting into the things that I didn't like about this series, even though I did enjoy the overall story itself, it seems like midway through, it just kind of slowed down, and the pacing and everything just really wasn't that great versus the first half and also versus the last half. And so the middle part of it, it's a lot slower. Not to say it's boring. They just spend a lot more time in the apartment complex with these people and what they're dealing with, and it gets more into a character-based story in the middle and less about all the other action and monsters that's happening within this world. Which leads me to the second thing. Even though there are monsters in this series, specifically the very first season, I would expect there to be more monsters. You don't get as many monsters as you would think, and I think a lot of this has to do with maybe like the budget, or maybe it was because they want to leave that for future seasons of this. Which leads me to the final thing that I didn't enjoy as much. Even though I really did appreciate the monsters that were here, the creature designs and stuff, the overall CGI and effects on some of these monsters, especially some real prominent monsters, it just didn't look really good. It just looked so CG. It kind of reminds me of Batman versus Superman. You know, if you think about Doomsday, there's a monster in this show that's very similar to that, and it looks like that, you know, where it's not bad. It's just that you could tell that CG. And once again, I think this has a lot to do with the budget. So maybe if this series does really well and we get future seasons of this, which I think we might, then we'll probably get better looking creatures to go along with the designs that they had intended for these. And so those are all overall my thoughts on Sweet Home. I think this is a really good series. It looks great overall. The characters and acting is solid. I love the world building that goes along with these characters. And by the end of the season, there's going to be a lot more story to tell. There's going to be a lot more growth with these characters. Maybe we're going to get even more characters than we currently have. And so if you've actually seen this and you had any thoughts on this, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my Korean film and show reviews, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area as well. And if you're a creative geek like me, and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Go Content Creators group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Go Content Creators group. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.